For our fourth and final video in middle child cognitive development, we're going to talk about moral development. Moral development's a little weird. Does it go with cognitive or does it go with social? It has components of both, but most textbooks will put it in with cognitive. So first we're going to talk about Piaget's theory of moral development. So he said it starts with moral realism, and this happens between the ages of 5 and 10. So this is when children are in concrete operations. They believe rules are absolute. We talked about this already. Children judge acts as moral when they conform to authority or the rules of the game. So morality is fixed and absolute. So because that's the way you do it, or because mommy says so, might be their justifications for an action. They don't judge based on intentions, just the results, just the outcome. So for them, an accident is just as guilty as something done on purpose. So if you pose a question to them that says, one child breaks 15 cups on accident, another breaks 1 cup on purpose, who is naughtier and should be punished more? In moral realism, they will say it was the child who broke 15 cups on accident because they just focused on the outcome, not the intention. They believe in something called immanent justice. This is automatic retribution. Punishment is inevitable. They may see an unrelated event as the punishment. For example, Joey stole my toy, then he fell down on the playground. So falling down on the playground to them is his punishment for stealing the toy. They believe that breaking the rules will lead to immediate and severe punishment. Magical thinking is still around for this. They apply magical thinking to tie unrelated consequences to a misdeed, such as I took a cookie, then I fell off my bike. They might think that somehow falling off the bike was justice for taking the cookie. Piaget's next stage of moral development is called moral relativism. He says this starts around age 8 and gets more developed as they enter adolescence. But now they understand that the rules aren't absolute. They can change to fit different circumstances. So they have something called autonomous morality. This is, like I said, it starts around age 8, but we typically see this between the ages of 9 and 11. So moral judgments are based on the intention of the wrongdoer and on the amount of damage done. So now they're actually able to take intention into account. So in that previous question about the number of cups, they would see that the child who broke 1 on purpose was worse than the one who did 15 on accident. They have a greater capacity to take the viewpoint of others and empathize with people, and their morality is self-governed. Social rules are arbitrary agreements that can be changed, so they recognize that rules are not absolute, and they no longer view absolute obedience to authority figures as the right thing to do. Circumstances can require breaking the rules. So cognitive development allows for higher moral development. They're able to take the point of view of others, and that helps them empathize with people and understand maybe why that person broke the rule. And this may develop, all these cognitive advances, the ability to take viewpoints and empathize, can develop as a result of cooperating with their peers, being around their peers a lot and learning how their peers think and feel. Parents can also foster this by having egalitarian relationships with their children and explaining the reasons for social rules. So having parents who see their children on a more equal footing instead of parents who are the absolute authority. So now we're going to talk about Kohlberg's theory of moral development. So we briefly discussed his theory in the early childhood section, but we're going to go more into depth now. Okay, so some background: he believed moral situations are not black and white. He focused on the gray areas between right and wrong where morality is subjective. So he posed moral questions to various ages. His famous question was, a man's wife is dying, but the medicine costs 10 times more than it costs to make. The man only has half the money, so he asks the pharmacist to sell it to him cheaper and he'll pay the rest later. The pharmacist says no. So later the man breaks into the pharmacy and steals the medicine. So Kohlberg posed this scenario to children, adolescents, and adults and asked them who displayed the moral or the immoral behavior, the man, the pharmacist, both. And then he compared their answers and he developed 3 stages of moral reasoning. So 3 stages. Each stage has 2 sub-stages, but I'm not going to expect you to know those. Just know the 3 main stages. The first is pre-conventional morality. This is based on punishment and reward. It's very egocentric. Morality begins with strict obedience to authority, and it evolves to an exchange, nice behavior for rewards. So a child will follow rules because adults have absolute power, and they're trying not to break the rules or get punished. And then later they'll follow because of self-interest, because they want to get a reward. They want to get something out of it. But it's still very egocentric. They're only thinking about themselves. The second stage is conventional morality. So this is social norms. The child wants to live up to the expectations of others. They recognize that rules exist to maintain social order, and they want to go along with those. And this is where children typically are in middle childhood, is in conventional morality. They're following the social norms, the social good. The third stage is post-conventional morality. This is where we get a moral code. This is also known as principled morality. So they realize that rules exist to serve society and the greater good, but they are willing to break the rules if they violate a personal moral code. So maybe they'll fight for something even though the law says otherwise. Civil rights, gay rights, etc. These are all examples of people who fought for what they believed was right, even though it went against the current laws. Okay? So without this level of morality, could society ever advance? Could we ever get new rights or new ideas? Okay? So we need people who are willing to challenge the laws and the existing social order because of what they believe is right, because of their personal moral code. So this image represents Kohlberg's stages. Again, within every major stage, there are 2 substages. Don't worry about the substages, just worry about the big ones. But in early childhood, they're typically in the first 2 stages. Middle childhood, they're in the second 2, and adolescence, the final 2. Now, these are only guidelines as an age. Kohlberg did not put ages on these. He stated that not everyone advances to the higher levels. Some adults are still stuck at stage 1. So, research shows that everyone passes through these levels in order, but not at the same rate. And some don't progress through all the stages. So do you know any adults who are still in pre-conventional morality? Do they just do something so they don't get in trouble or so they can get a reward? Kohlberg later dropped stage 6 altogether from his theory due to cultural differences. And this is because some cultures emphasize different values, and Kohlberg's levels reflected Western values. So he realized that some cultures just didn't have the same way of thinking about morality as others. So he removed stage 6. So that's all I have for middle childhood cognitive development. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments here or on Blackboard.